about that. During our live broadcast, we invite you to call 646-652-4620. That's 646-652-4620 or toll free 888-773-4496. Before we get started, I would like to remind our listeners to subscribe to our reminder service by visiting our website, libertytalkradio.com, and clicking on the subscribe icon. Your name will not be sold or given to anyone for any advertising or for any reason other than to notify you of our next broadcast. To our show. Well, folks, good morning, everyone. Last week, we were off the air for actually 2 sessions, both Thursday and Monday morning, because I was out of the States. I was in Puerto Rico. I had every intention of visiting Peter Schiff's office, Europe Pacific Capital in Old San Juan area. Never got there. It was a very, very interesting trip. I went there because my wife's an audiologist. There was an audiology convention. I went with her. I travel very poorly, by the way. I don't travel well at all. I am very busy, and I define traveling as temporarily moving. And I don't like to move because I have just too much to do. But I did go because I always wanted to go to Puerto Rico. I have never been there in my life. I always claimed that I came from Little Puerto Rico, that's the Bronx, New York, so I had a lot of Puerto Rican friends. When I sang doo-wop back in the 50s, my second tenor was a Puerto Rican, Carlos Rivera. And he's a super guy, and I just wish I could see him today. I have no idea where he is, and his name is very common. You can't even look it up. You get 1,000 responses back, and you don't know who's who at this point. Anyway, the reason why I'm mentioning the trip to Puerto Rico is because Puerto Rico, when we were there, we were in I guess what was once a 5-star hotel at the edge of a cliff, which meandered down into the Pacific Ocean. Now, Puerto Rico is the easternmost large island, in the Caribbean, except when you get to the American and British Virgin Islands, which are just dots on the map, actually. And then from there on, there's Africa, the west coast of Africa. So you're really out there. The weather is relatively cool, and one reason for that is that the ocean is relatively cool, and even though it's down toward the equator, you get these cool breezes from the ocean. So it doesn't, even in the summertime, doesn't get much higher than 90 degrees. The weather is fabulous. Now, the hotel we're at was kind of old. I mean, it's seen its better days, but it was a beautiful hotel. It was Roman style. They had pools outside, and the pools were, with Roman columns and the whole bit. I mean, it was a luxurious hotel. It was wonderful. The service was absolutely outstanding. Now, hold on a second. Did you turn on the camera? You turned on. Okay, I didn't see anyone turn on the camera, folks, and I was just getting concerned. We've done this before, by the way, where we've had a blank screen and didn't know it. But what was interesting about Puerto Rico, other than its beautiful, the natural state is just gorgeous. The mountains are just beautiful. It sort of reminds you somewhat of Hawaii because it's the hills are so steep and so lush and green. But what I found interesting is that the only time we had an opportunity to leave the hotel, what I call the compound, was when we took a bus to the docks so that we can go to the small island where they hold all the parties, a big beach island, so to speak. And just this short, I'd say 20-minute ride on the bus, the landscape, not the physical landscape, but the man-made landscape of Puerto Rico changed dramatically. You went from sort of like the wealthy to the super poor. And I thought to myself, and it was horrible. It was just not very pleasant to look at. The buildings were just square blocks, mostly like cinder block buildings, flat roofs. And many of the houses had small windows with bars on them. And there was no sort of deed restrictions, like, you have to have houses here and industry here and whatever. It was a mishmash of you name it, everything was a junkyard next to a house, next to a diner. It made no sense. The roads were very narrow, very difficult to navigate. But what my point being is that there was such a stark difference between those people who have and those people who do not, the have and the have-nots. And the reason why I'm mentioning that is because we talk a lot in the media, in all forms of media, as well as talk show hosts, talk show programs, the fact that there seems to be a bifurcation of America. And that is, you have a lot of wealthy people, very few wealthy people, and everyone else is not wealthy at all. Now, at one time, of course, we had always had very wealthy people in the United States, the Carnegies, the Rockefellers and whatever. But yet everyone else was sort of like in the middle class. I mean, there was a poorer class, but these people had opportunities to go from the lower class. When I say lower class, I don't mean lower in stature, but I mean in income. Lower income class up into the middle income class. But today we seem to have the tide is changed. It's gone from the middle class and we're sliding into the lower income class. For example, just yesterday, I think it was Gerald Celente was talking about over half the people in the United States today barely make it paycheck to paycheck. In other words, the wealth of America is being drained. Now, it's not big industry and it's not capitalism that's doing it. In fact, capitalism is the savior of this whole thing. But we like to blame capitalism because we talk about people who have money as being capitalists. Folks, we're all capitalists, every one of us. Maybe on a different scale, but we all are. If you take that ability away from people, you get poor. And if only the people who are very rich have the access to resources, then you have this bifurcation between the very rich and the not so rich at all, or the poor. So I think it's interesting for us to know, or important for us to know, that we don't want to go the way of Puerto Rico or Haiti or any of the other countries in the Caribbean. We want to have, of course, there's always going to be rich people, and of course there will always be poor people. I know some poor people, I mean very, very poor, that are struggling, and basically, in good part, it's their own fault. I mean, they choose that lifestyle. I mean, they have there's opportunities, they don't take advantage of them. Now, some are lucky that they're still existing, but I'm just saying that it's not somebody else's fault that everyone falls in a certain particular economic class on this whole strata from poor to rich. And if we keep on going the way we're going with this crony capitalism, with this oligarchy that we have in Washington, with the ties that the oligarchy has and these corrupt politicians, and they're not all corrupt, but those that are not corrupt get nothing done, by the way. They can't make headway. They don't get on the committees. They don't get on the Appropriations Committee. It's just those people who are well-connected, stay well-connected, and even after they're out of office, get reconnected. And so you have this group, this very small group of very wealthy people connecting themselves with industry. Industry is paying for their campaigns and their programs and whatever. And in turn, contracts are awarded to these companies. And so you have these millions and sometimes billions of dollars being traded back and forth at the very, very, very top. And that sacrifices everyone else, because usually with these programs, the government goes into a tremendous amount of debt. And the only people these people will not pay the debt, but the average citizen will, or the average citizen's daughters and sons or granddaughters and grandsons will. So we need to have a totally free market system. And a totally free market system will ameliorate the situation and equalize everyone. And yes, there will be poor because there's some people who can't do it. They don't have the facilities, the mental capacity, or whatever the case may be, or the willingness. It could be a million reasons why. And then we have those others that are going to be very, very rich. But in between, everyone can do very, very well. And everyone could do well regardless of where they fall on the economic strata. So let Puerto Rico be a lesson to us. We don't want to be another Puerto Rico. We don't want to be another Haiti. But that's exactly where we're going. When you listen to the those people on television and on radio, all the media that are running for office, think, where do these people come from? How did they get into office? How many millions and millions and millions of dollars were given to their campaign? It is now estimated that some $1 billion will be needed to run for president. Now, is that the America that our founding fathers intended this place to be? To run for office for president, $1 billion. And even if you didn't have $1 billion and you were somehow fortunate enough to get on the ticket as an independent or whatever, right, you would be included in nothing. No news media would cover you because it's all owned by the government. You would not be included in the debates. And if you were, you would be the last guy all the way on the left that no one would ever see. And the media would always speak about you in a very negative manner. Like, guy's got kind of a radical view, of America being free, things like that. And we actually start believing that stupid stuff. So I think Puerto Rico, being a territory or protectorate, however you want to call it, should be a warning light for us. And that's what I got for going to Puerto Rico, believe it or not. Other than this is the first time in probably 40 years I had lobster tail. It was wonderful. Anyway, today's program is entitled The War Belief. And folks, I really wish I can tell you that, I'm really a smart guy. I mean, I'm brilliant, I'm the type that goes to school and I can, quantum physics, no problem. I can read that stuff like I can read a storyline. It's the case. That's not the case. I struggle. I think a strong point of mine is that I'm not too bright. But I recognize the fact that I'm not too bright. And as a result, I have to really break everything down into Dick and Jane language so that I can truly understand the concept that's being presented to me. I accept nothing unless I can really, truly understand it. And let me give you an example. Let's say you have a friend, and a friend of yours is, not the most trustworthy person in the world. And, he's a nice guy. You hang around with him. You have a real good time. We just have a guest walked in. Please sit over there. Okay, there you go. Relax, enjoy yourself. And, and we all had these friends that a lot of fun to be with, just have a great time and whole bit. However, whenever this guy, let's call him Bobby, okay, just for the heck of it. I have nothing against guys named Bobby, but, Bobby is a great guy, fun guy. But whatever he tells you, you take with a grain of salt. Now, we all grew up with people like that. I mean, I had friends that way. A hell of a nice guy, but, if they said something, if you would never put money on it because it was always out of context or whatever. And so if Bobby said, just close your eyes and just jump forward, you'll be okay, you would never do it because you know that you can't trust them. Then if you close your eyes and jump, you'd jump into a hole and break your arm. I mean, no matter what he said, it wasn't wrong, but it was never right. And we all know those people. And some of them lie outright only to make themselves feel better. Now, unfortunately, I've had too many friends that way. And some people are that way only because they feel that this is what they should say to maintain your friendship. Now, again, everyone has had friends like that or has known people like that. Most of you have friends today, no matter what age you are, who are like that. I had a friend that recently passed away that was that way. I mean, hell of a nice guy, but, you just, always, well, what was behind that sentence? All right. Now, the reason why I say that, if Bobby, your friend Bobby that you always very cautious about what he said, if he gave you a gun and said, hey, Joe, you see that guy over there? He's a murderer. He's wanted by the FBI. Here's a gun. Shoot him, and then you can get a reward. Now, would I take the gun and go up to that guy and blow his brains out and say, boy, good, we got this bad guy off the street. Oh, this is great, I'm going to collect. How much is the reward, And then I go to the police station dragging this body with me. Now, play along with me, please. I'm dragging this body. I say, hey, here's this public enemy number one. I just blew his brains out. I'm here to collect the reward. And then you find out the guy is just a perfectly innocent bystander. There was no reward. Now, you're saying, well, Joe, that's stupid. No one would do that. You're absolutely correct. No one in their right mind would do that. Could we agree with that? That someone you didn't trust gave you a gun and said, shoot that guy because he's a bad guy. He may shoot you first if you don't shoot right now. And you never trusted this guy, even for a pack of bubble gum. You wouldn't trust him for anything. Now, would you kill someone if he told you that you should kill him? Well, the answer is no. You say, Joe, that's stupid. Now, where are you going with this? All right. Now, if we are all in agreement that someone that we don't trust, who we know lies or colors the truth in one way, shape, or form, if he told us to do something as dramatic, as hideous as that, we would never pull the trigger, never put a gun in our hands, and never point it at anyone, all right? Now, if that's the case, I have to ask the question. It's a very basic question. Do you trust everything the government says? I want you to think about that. Do you trust? Not that it may be somewhat the truth. Do you trust? In other words, I have friends that when they say something to me, you can take it to the bank. Now, that same friend would never tell me to go shoot somebody else, because they wouldn't want to be responsible, and they're not sure. And then they feel that they're not judge and jury. And that's a person that you can truly trust. But, my goofy friend Bobby that I was talking about, hey, it's okay, shoot him. What the heck? Makes no difference. Now, we all have friends that we trust explicitly. If I go out of town, I can give my keys to a friend and give them my house. Everything in the house is theirs. They can do what I can come back and the whole thing can be emptied out, But they have everything, access to everything. I come back, everything's exactly where it was, but I always leave it in better shape than the way that I left it. Now, we all have friends like that. I hope we all have friends like that. I have many friends that way. Now, even if I left $20,000 in small bills on the table, when I came back, there would be no dust on them. They'd just make sure they're nice and clean and they're still there. Now, which is the government? Is the government someone that doesn't really tell the truth every single time? Or is the government just maybe colors the truth or lies all the time? All right? I want you to think about that because we're going to go for a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to tie that in to probably the most profound, the most important concept that every American should know. Let's stop. Don't go away. We will be right back.
You're listening to Liberty Talk Radio. Political talk derived from a historical perspective. Not always palatable, but good food for thought. Pure libertarian talk with host Joe Cristiano. LibertyTalkRadio.com.
Express Test is your go-to company for on-site occupational health testing services. That's right, we said on-site. That means we will meet you at your facility for a free health and occupational safety consultation. Express Test specializes in hearing conservation, respiratory protection, and employee safety. We can help you establish viable programs tailored to your business and employee needs. For your free consultation, call 918-743-2929 or visit us at expresstest.com. That's 918-743-2929 or expresstest.com. Do you find yourself asking, what did you say? Aaron Cristiano of Ranch Acres Audiology has over 25 years of experience helping patients just like you.
Hearing requires conservation. We need to be aware and we need to be responsible for our own hearing health.
Understand more with a little help from Ranch Acres Audiology. Call 918-749-7711. That's 918-749-7711 to learn more. We'd like to thank attorney Constance Squires for her support of Liberty Talk Radio. If you want a comprehensive way to affordably avoid legal issues, call Constance Squires. For a free consultation, call 918-254-9283 or go online at isthyWillDone.com.
This isn't your typical talk radio show. This is Liberty Talk Radio.
Folks, welcome back. This is Joe Cristiano. we're talking about the war belief. And we just finished dialoguing on, we all know people that we know well, but don't trust. I mean, they're not bad people, but whatever comes out of their mouth always is tainted in one way, shape, or form. And I think it's a psychological defect. They don't want to feel like they don't know something. I know people that feel that they have to say something, even if they know it's incorrect, but it makes it sound good. They don't want to seem uninformed or ignorant, or they want to make themselves feel bigger or better. And these are people that you may have a lot of fun with. They may be good friends, but whatever they say, you do not trust. And we all know people like that. Every single person listening to this program, every person in the world knows someone like that. Conversely, there are those people that you trust explicitly. Like I said before the break, if I had someone watch my house while I was on vacation, I would give a friend's keys, give them access to the entire house, and if there was a $20,000 stack of bills on the dining room table, when I came back, they would be cleaned off, to make sure they're nice and straight and even, that they would all be there. And we all know people like that as well. Now here's the question. Now, do you want your government to be like the first person I talked about, where they say things that sound good but are never true or lie? Or is our government like your second friend or other friend that is just truthful to the core, that would never lie, always tells the truth, is sincere and honest, would never steal, and would always try to prove, even subconsciously, that they're doing right by always giving you more than you expect? Now, we all have friends in both camps. Now, my question to you is this: where do you put the government? Do you put the government in the camp of never tells a lie? Never. I mean, always tells the explicit, the detail, backs it up, proves it, never a question? Or do you put the government in the camp of, well, they say what they have to say, it sort of sounds good and all that, but you always sort of squint in a way and say, I wonder what the real truth is? And do we also have a government that lies, just outright lies for the sake of lying? I mean, for some sort of selfish interest. Now, folks, you know the answer to that question. I'm not going to give it to you. Now, here's my point. This is so profound because it's so basic. But if we understood this on an elementary level, there would be peace in the world. I mean this. This is how profound this is. Our young men and women are enlisted into the armed forces under the belief that they are doing so to protect America. How many people really believe that? If they believe that, they have to believe everything the government has told them. Now, if you ask the person, well, if you believe that, do you believe everything the government tells you? They'd say, oh, no. Then if you know the government is lying, what's the difference between your friend Bobby, who always lies, gives you a gun and say, hey, that's a bad guy, shoot him. You shoot the person, right? That's cold-blooded murder. What's the difference between that and the government giving a young man or woman a rifle, putting him in uniform and saying, hey, you see those people over there? They're bad people. No, they haven't been brought to court. They haven't been proven, by their peers to be guilty of anything. But when you go there, we want you to kill every single one of them. What is the difference? You see, folks, what we don't want to admit is there is no difference whatsoever. Other than, if you listen to your friend Bobby, you may kill one person, go to jail for the rest of your life. If you listen to the government, you may kill a dozen, hundreds, or 1,000 people. If you're pressing a button and throwing a bomb on a place, it's the same thing as killing a person in cold blood, just 3 feet away with a gun. You may kill a few hundred people with impunity. And then when the soldiers come back, we say, thank you for your service. I'm not anti-military. I'm not the anti-soldier or American. Don't get me wrong. I want to talk about the concept. And the concept is such that if we send men and women over there, why are we sending them? Well, we're sending them because our government said we have to go there. Now, our government is probably worse than our friend Bobby, that we wouldn't trust for anything, because we know. But we know our government lies. Every person that you ask, if you ask anyone, ask a dozen people. Do yourself a favor, ask a dozen people and say, hey, tell me, does the government ever lie? And see how many say, no, the government never lies. Now, some may be sort of pro-government people feeling the government is good and saying, well, sometimes they have to lie, da-da-da-da-da-da, and they give excuses. In other words, they're covering up, but they truly do not believe that the government tells the truth. So if the government never tells the truth, and we all know that, 100% of the population knows that. When they train a young man and woman, our kids, people who have not been convicted of any crime whatsoever, and they come back mentally deranged, legs or arms blown off, and some come back sort of looking okay, but they're not okay, we say thank you for your service, and then they lead a horrible life with nightmares for the rest of their lives. Now, why would anyone go if they don't trust what the government says? But as soon as it comes to war, all of a sudden the government is omnipotent. They know everything. They're white as the newly fallen snow. There's not a taint on it. It's beautiful. It's perfect. But when you come out of war, government can't tell the truth. Now, don't you think there's something wrong with our mentality? Don't you think there's something wrong with us? Now, that's the problem that we have when we have a government that actually perpetrates war. In other words, we're here. We're between the Atlantic pond and the Pacific pond. We are positioned perfectly to be separated from all the conflicts in Southeast Asia and in Europe and in East Europe, Eurasia. And we are far enough from South America, and I tell you, it seems to be close. Travel to South America, see how long it takes to fly there. It is a long distance. It is easier to get to Europe than it is to get to most places in South America. And so we are separated. We have a friendly country up north, Canada, and we actually have a friendly country down south, Mexico, except we've turned it to a drug lord land, and that's our fault. And so we're isolated. We have all the natural resources we need. We have everyone in the world that wants to trade for us. And what do we concentrate our efforts and energy and our resources in doing? Taking airplanes, tanks, our personnel, aircraft carriers, our ships, you name it. We take it away from our homeland, that's supposed to be protecting our homeland, and bringing them to places like Korea. We're still in Japan. We're still in Europe. We now have contingencies all over the Middle East. We have drones bombing and killing people all over the world. And for what? To protect our security? Says who? Says the government? Says Bobby? Bobby says we got to do this? Oh, I believe it now. Well, we don't believe it. But it seems to be unpatriotic if we don't believe it. If you want to be patriotic, stop believing. Start knowing. Remember, when we say we believe, we say we think so, but we really don't know. And even those people say, well, I believe that we should go over there. When you start discussing the issue, they'll admit that they really don't know and they don't trust the government. And now you're saying, well, I'm talking to a lunatic. Because this guy says, yes, no, he has no idea where he is. But they're afraid. Look, and the government does a great job. You go to any event, we have to stand up and pledge allegiance to the flag. I don't want to pledge allegiance to the flag. I want to pledge allegiance to the Constitution. In fact, I got something here. Here, let me give you the real pledge. It says, I pledge allegiance to the Constitution of the United States of America because of the rights it protects. Doesn't give us the rights, it protects the rights of the individual. And the republic it creates. One nation of individuals with liberty and justice for all. Doesn't that make sense? I don't want to pledge allegiance to a flag. That makes no sense whatsoever. But we do that. We all salute, and then the soldiers come out in the color guard, and we all applaud the whole bit. And then we say, and then we bring out, of course, all the guys in the wheelchair, who got their legs blown off with the IEDs and stuff like that. And we stand up and applaud, and we tell them how we thank them for their service. Do you understand the illogical lunacy of this whole thing? Now, I'm not blaming the soldiers. I'm not chastising the soldiers at all. I think that they have been duped just like everybody else has been duped. Now, if in fact we did not have any troops overseas, none, zero, zilch, and we wanted to truly protect America, who would be the soldiers? Now, we're not anywhere. We're in our towns, all over America. Who would be protecting America? Think the Swiss. Every man, woman, and child. And by the way, how would they get here? I mean, our closest enemy would probably be 3,000 miles away. You would think with all the surveillance, by the time it got here, even if it was a rocket, we would know about it. If they landed here, if they landed in New York Harbor, they wouldn't get past Brooklyn. Just the street gangs alone will obliterate them. But then you got to ask the question, well, if in fact the United States is a peaceful nation, has no troops overseas, we interfere with no one, but we're an industrial powerhouse and we trade with everyone, not because the government contracts, but individual contracts, people working with people, why would they nuke us? Why would they attack us? In fact, if anything, they would want to embolden us to be even better than we are, because the better we are, the better they are. Now, that to me makes all the sense in the world. And spare me Sharia law. Oh, no, but these people are crazy, this and that. Yeah, they're crazy, they're beheading people, but we go over there with a drone and we kill 14 people in the wedding party, had nothing to do with anything, but that's okay. Now, we got to start waking up. This stupid war machine has got to stop. Now, quite frankly, let me be totally pessimistic. It ain't going to happen. Understand this is not going to happen. We're not going to stop the wars. We're going to accelerate every war around the world. Why? Because the oligarchy owns the military-industrial complex. And that's where the money is. Every time they launch a rocket for $1 million against a Middle East insurgent who's carrying around literally a handmade AK-47, by the way, my favorite rifle, AK-47, right? That probably costs $50 to make, if that much, all right? It's $1 million. We can't win that war. Every time they do that and they kill a whole bunch of innocent people, we make the situation worse. However, at the same time, we got to build a new rocket. So we have another $1 million contract to give the military-industrial complex. Boy, what a great deal that is. And the only problem we have now is worrying, although we don't worry about it, is whether or not my children or my children's children are going to have the money to pay for it, which they will not. So they are bankrupting the nation. Do they care? No, of course they don't care. If they cared, they wouldn't do it. So we are constantly going into further debt, killing people, creating hate around the world. And the most pure form of hate is war. When you kill someone, that is the purest form of hate. So when our clowns, including our clown president, gets up there and talks about how America is out to help people and this and that, and we're going to send troops to Angola and all that other stupid comic book crap, No. He is the perpetrator of hate. If he walks into a church, the church should crumble down. Because he knows he is sending people to war, to die, on both sides, for profit. There is no worse person in the world than that. Like, what'd you kill that guy for, Bobby? Well, he had $50 and I needed it. Oh, it's okay, Bobby. Does that make any sense to you? If that makes sense to you, what I'm saying makes no sense. You should go listen to Rush Limbaugh or somebody like that, or Hannity, or whoever you want to listen to. Listen to these war clowns. They're all clowns, every one of them. And then when they have these generals give testimony, what garbage? Have you listened to the garbage that they talk about? Well, we looked at this in a very analytical manner, and we decided that, the cause versus benefit, all this garbage, and they have no idea what they're talking about. Russia went bankrupt, and one of the things that really helped them is staying in Afghanistan. Folks, we still have tens of thousands of troops in Afghanistan. However, I cannot vouch for that because when we say troops, I'm not sure if we're talking about American military troops or contracted troops. There may be tens of thousands of contracted troops that we don't count as our troops, that we pay each one hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. Just think of that. For what? Does anyone within my listening voice, which is around the world, anyone have a whole bunch of friends that are Afghanis that are really that are enemies of yours? Have you ever met people from overseas, just in a regular natural environment, and found them to be the most warm and welcoming people? I find people overseas, quite frankly, I'll be honest with you, I've been around. I find people overseas, foreigners that come here, to be a lot more friendly than Americans. Now, I'm not saying Americans are unfriendly and that I'm anti-American. Don't go there. I'm just saying that when you hear people dialogue about that, you would think that everyone around the world is unfriendly and we're the only friendly people in the world. Ain't true. We don't even know how to exercise friendliness as other people around the world do. And yet, you know what we do? We kill them. Of course. You want to be friendly? Excuse me. Of course we have to kill them. You know why? Because Bobby said we should. Now, how incredibly stupid could we be? Now, we have someone on the line here. Let's see what that. I think he's been holding on. Caller, you're on the line. What's your question? You have any question for us?
Yes, Joe. I'm a first-time caller. How are you?
Fine. Thank you very much.
Joe, I had a question. I read a news story today about Lying Williams, the NBC reporter. Brian Williams. It rhymes with lying, and I don't know. It's just a slip of the tongue. Where he recounted an Afghan story where he was riding in on a Chinook helicopter and covering a story over there, and he took fire and it landed, But it turns out he wasn't on that chopper. He was on the chopper after that chopper, and landed 30 to 60 minutes later. But he kind of incorporated this into his repertoire or resume. And did you hear about that, and what do you think of that?
No,
This is Brian Williams on Lying Brian on NBC.
Yeah, I did not hear that. I plead total ignorance at this point. So I can't.
I just wondered what your thoughts were about that.
I'm sorry. I wish I could. I wish I can act smart and say, oh, of course I know all about that, and make up a good story so I don't look so stupid on the air, But I'm unfamiliar with that story. I avoid, for the most part, most Main Street. Hold on a second. We have a big hum. There we go. We got a big. All right, we had a big hum in our microphones here. We have a new studio, and we're still playing around with a lot of the equipment, and we're installing new equipment constantly and integrating it, so it's difficult. Anyway, but I avoid mainstream news like the plague because I don't get anything out of it. it'd be great for the talk show because I can take everything they say and rip it apart to give me a lot of material, but I don't want to waste my time doing that. I'd rather spend my time, reading and studying. I just finished a book by Jim Rickards and then another one by Kevin Freeman, on the economy, on money, on the Federal Reserve. And these guys are experts. I mean, these guys are the top-notch dogs. And I'd rather spend my time doing that than listening to the news, because about the few times I listen to the news, I always feel like so tainted, I get frustrated and blood pressure goes up and it's not very good. Well, let me ask you a question in return. What is your comment on what I'm saying?
Oh, I just caught the tail end when I called in the hospitality factor of the Middle Eastern nations or peoples. Is that what you're referring to?
We refer to the fact that Americans are good. Everyone overseas is out to get us, type thing, and that we have this mentality that if we don't kill them, they'll kill us. And of course, we have to believe the government.
Yeah, I think that's probably more mainstream. I don't know. I mean, a lot of people that feel that way, but I guess I hadn't really talked to them about it. But I mean, maybe some people do. But get them first. I mean, I heard what you're talking about, their hospitality, and I would just have to confer with you. I mean, I have interacted and worked with and worked for and had some friends that were here in the States from other various countries, not just Middle East, but just other cultures. And I've never been out of the country, so I always find my interaction with other cultures very fascinating and invigorating. And I found, for the most part, I'd say 90+%, everyone is very polite, and many cultures put our culture to shame as far as hospitality goes. Now, I think most people in this world, Joe, they just want to get along.
That's right.
Have kids, right. Grandkids, maybe a second home at the lake or in the mountains or something, Yeah. But they just want to be. It's the small percentage of psychopaths that want to destroy everything, ruin everything, control everything, and obliterate other people,
Yeah.
But
right.
most people just get along, just want to get along.
Right. When I'm at home and I'm mowing the lawn, I'm not thinking about ISIS. I'm not thinking about Islamic stuff. I'm not thinking about the Israeli. I mean, it has nothing to do with me. I'm thinking about when I'm going to finish mowing this friggin' lawn, which I hate mowing, because I want to go to Starbucks and have a cup of coffee. That's what I'm thinking about. And yet, when you listen to the news, it's almost as if we're all, this occupies our mind on how all of these militants around the world want to harm us, and we have to do something and protect ourselves and spend a lot of military hardware on this subject, when there's not one person who's thinking about that. And we have to be indoctrinated day in and day out to start thinking that way. And I think it's a shame.
Oh, it is a shame. It really is a shame. I mean, the war machine, General Smedley Butler, I think the most decorated Marine of all time, from World War I. He wrote a book. It's an easy read. It's called War is a Racket. And what he did was he chronicled, before the World War I, different manufacturers, corporations, and companies, the last 5 years or so, maybe longer, of their sales. And then when we went into the war, he chronicled how their sales went up. And in every one of these categories that he used, like one category you wouldn't think about it was like leather, the leather industry, because we made saddles in World War I. And it just skyrocketed. It was just like, if you look at one of them charts, where it's just maybe your annual sales are kind of going up a hill, but then when it came to the war, they just shot straight up like a rocket. Right. And so there's huge profits for the families at top that own these companies and these top executives, but there's huge loss of life and dignity and limb for everyone else. And it's really a racket, and I see no end to it. I don't.
Yeah, that's the problem. I see no
see
into
no-
it. Unless someone ends it for us, which means it's over for everyone. And then that's the bad
Well,
part.
right now they're demonizing Russia, and everything's demonized. Even the late night comedians will throw one joke in about Russia, and people laugh.
Right.
But that's sort of a mind control and a spin. That's sort of a spin. Humor is used to diffuse things, and
Right.
and it's kind of a spin on people's mind too. And it's we got to have a boogeyman, and if we got a boogeyman, then we've got to protect ourselves. And I think we should have a certain amount of defense. I believe in a strong defense. Walk softly, carry a big stick. I don't know which president said that.
I think it was Theodore Roosevelt, but he actually said that, but he was the opposite. He wanted to speak loudly and beat the heck out of everyone with a stick. I mean that was the biggest con lie that any president could say. Another mind control thing. It's
here's exactly. Now here, speaking of mind control, something interesting is I read another article that Governor Christie was over in London and meeting with the Prime Minister over there on a trade expo. And in this article, they said, it's governors don't have a lot of foreign policy experience, so their trips overseas kind of adds to that, which I don't know how that does. It's it's like a working vacation, but that's what they said in the article. And of course, being a trade expo, that means the state's paying for it. So,
right.
But he went over there.
You are paying for it, caller.
One of the perks of the job, that's why those guys always take those trips, But he went, and it's informal, and he's meeting Cameron, but they mentioned what I thought was interesting was the trend. They mentioned in there how Jeb Bush went in December, and how Scott Walker is going later, I think, in February. And, I'm sitting there scratching my head. I'm like, did we ever get our independence from these guys? I mean, do we got to go over there and kiss the ring? Is that what we got to do? I mean, is this just by chance? Are we just throwing dice here and they all come up sevens three times? I mean, I'll go over to me, but it's a rite of passage. It has a rite of passage, and it sure looks that way to me, I guess.
Well, when they do, they elevate themselves. They can say, look what I've done. I went to go visit so-and-so, and this is the discussion we have. And we go, oh, my goodness gracious, this person has contacts overseas with the highest officials. This person's important, and I'm nobody. What do? I go to work every day and raise my children and pay my taxes. I'm dirt, So, of course, I have to obey what they have to say because they're the people who know. They're in the know. Excuse me, one second. I have a hum in my thing. Is it?
Yeah, there's a hum in the line. I hear it too.
I know.
Maybe
That's
it's my
really
phone.
but we have to
I'm
fix
joking.
that. We're going to fix something every time. Okay. Well, very good call. Thank you very much for calling, listening, and call in whenever you feel the need to. Okay.
All right, Joe. Well, thank you, and have a good day.
Thank you very much. It's interesting. Where was that hum from, by the way? From his side, yeah, because the hum just went away, right? I'm looking at everyone here in the studio. Everyone's saying yes, yay, goodbye, okay. But if we only took our problems and broke them down in elementary fashion, you would find that there really is no substance behind what our politicians are saying. I mean, really, truly, if we just left people alone, if the government didn't impose tariffs or restrictions on other countries on what we can trade and what we can't trade, and we traded with everyone. When people talk about Iran, you know what my answer to Iran is? Help them build a nuclear plant. You want to get him, you want to be friends with Iran. What are they? They're going to build a nuclear plant, then they're going to build a bomb and bomb you? I mean, it makes no sense. It makes no sense whatsoever. Why would they do that? And let's assume that they were going to do that. They're a small country compared to us. We see a few rockets. We send our rockets up to intercept. And then for every 3 rockets they send here, we send 40 rockets over there. I mean, nuclear rockets there. I mean, where is it? I mean, for what reason? But yet, in the United States, we have nuclear submarines sitting on the bottom of the ocean all over the world, several of them. We have aircraft carriers, which are strictly offensive weapons, with airplanes in the coast of next to every country in the world. Could you imagine if there was a Russian aircraft carrier in the Gulf of Mexico? Just the thought of that, I think World War III. But yet, we can have aircraft carriers in the Black Sea right on the Russian border, and they have to take it. I mean, we are the most arrogant SOBs in the world. I mean, we couldn't get any worse. And then we get up there and we talk about peace around the world and how it... Here we have a country of Israel that was formed in 1948 because the British felt that the state of Palestine was an endless pit. There was nothing for them, so they gave it. They gave Palestine to the Jewish people. Now, first of all, Britain didn't own Palestine. The Palestinians did. Then they give it to the Jewish people. War breaks out. No kidding, Charlie. I mean, you don't. And then now every year, because we're a peace-loving nation, we give $3 billion plus to Israel in military aid. Over $3 billion. When we are close to $200 trillion in debt. Where's the money coming from? Well, I hope your grandchildren's grandchildren enjoy paying it. Folks, we have to really start thinking. We have no money. We are one of the world. On just a numbers basis, we're the most indebted nations. On a per capita, we're not. I think Japan beats us out there. But yet, we spend money like it's going out of style. I just heard that we're going to spend $1 billion or $3 billion. There's someone here, maybe they can help me out. But $3 billion we're sending to, I want to say Jordan, but I'm not sure. I heard it this morning as I was leaving the house. You know, what, $1 billion? Where does this billion come? Don't we need $1 billion for infrastructure? Oh no, we can't. We can't improve our infrastructure that's crumbling because we don't have the money. You know, we say we don't have the money, but we can spend the money when we want to. Because infrastructure, people don't make money from infrastructure. Typically, that's a state-derived project, and they go by competitive bidding. Ain't that much money. Even the politicians that get kickbacks don't make all that much money. But sending money overseas in the billions of dollars, there's big money for everybody for it. And we pay for it. And what the shame of it is that after they do that, we applaud them, and then we reelect them. I think every American should have their minds analyzed. We have to go through something where we just re-indoctrinate ourselves. And this thing about war, we're constantly at war. There was no need for us to be in World War I. Germany had already lost World War II. Contrary to popular belief, they lost 500,000 troops retreating from Stalingrad. 500,000. You think they're on a roll? They want to roll. They want to roll downhill. All you had to do is to defeat Germany, stop the oil imports. They had no oil. They couldn't do anything. When we attacked the Japanese air bases and hit the planes, not one plane blew up. Do you know why? There was no fuel in them. They had no fuel. They had planes, but they couldn't fly them. And yet, we had to throw the atomic bomb on Japan because we needed a test target. There's no reason for World War I, no reason for World War II. Of course, there was a big reason for Korea, which no one can still figure out. Right? Vietnam was a real beaut, wasn't it? I actually enlisted to go to Vietnam, and I was very fortunate in that I failed the physical. I actually failed the physical because I had a seizure when I was a kid once, 50-some-odd years ago. Never had one since. And they said, well, you had one, you can never have it. You can't go in there. I wanted to go to Vietnam. I was young and stupid, like our young people are today, young and stupid. I was one of them. Vietnam, almost 2 million people killed, defoliated one of the most beautiful green countries on earth. What for? No one can tell you why. No one, to this date, they can't tell you why. Vietnamese people, wonderful people, but we have to kill them. We got to kill them. And we're all convinced that we had to do it. And what about Iraq? Oh, yes, weapons of mass destruction. They have weapons of mass. We gave it to them to support the 6-year war with Iran. I mean, we can go on and on and on. The Spanish-American War, everyone is trumped. Everyone was trumped up by something. Now, I'm going to end this by suggesting something. I hate conscription. That means that the government can, by law, force you to join the military. I think we should have conscription again. The reason for that is that when we had conscription, or the draft, during Vietnam, what happened? We had riots in the street. We had people protesting. And if we had that, the only reason why we don't have the draft today is because the government knows that people would take to the streets. Because the guy says, no, I don't want to go to Afghanistan and kill somebody that I think is perfectly innocent. I ain't doing it. Right? So then people hit the streets. But when it's voluntary, it's very difficult to do so. So they have no conscription. They have the draft, no draft, but yet they indoctrinate us thinking that let's honor our troops. And we fall right into that. Folks, we have a serious problem. And we have met the enemy, and you know who the enemy is? You know who the true enemy is? Us. We have met the enemy, and it is us. Ain't nobody else. Because if we stop being the enemy, there would be no more war. At least not with the United States. I feel very certain of that. I want you to really think about that, because if everyone started thinking that way, it would change the course of the entire planet. The entire planet. Please think about that. Okay, this is the end of today's broadcast, and we're going to sign off now. Here we go. This is the end of today's broadcast. We'd like to thank our sponsors for the financial support, and we'd like to thank you for listening in. Folks, you can further the cause of liberty by recommending this program to your friends and let us hear from you. Our email address is comments@libertytalkradio.com. Remember, you're either allowing your liberties to be taken away or you're striving to protect them. One takes some effort, folks. Unfortunately, there is no middle ground. Until next time, this is Joe Cristiano. This is Liberty Talk Radio. Stay well. Stay tuned.